Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I am a Western astrologer and twin flame channel. And this is a video about the Leo new moon taking place on August 4th at 7:12 a.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. And yes, I'm really excited about this Leo new moon. A couple of quick announcements before we start. This will be the Lightworker energy update. And there are several 30-minute sessions available before we close this month. So if you felt pretty activated by the Capricorn full moon, or you want to know what's ahead as we step into eclipse season, grab one of those 30-minute sessions. This is being recorded and uploaded on Wednesday, July 24th, and there's one 30-minute session available tomorrow, the 25th, and a couple next week. So if you'd like to jump in on those, please do. The 20% savings for a 1-hour reading is also still available, and there are 3 1-hour readings left next week. So if you'd like to get a 1-hour reading, you can do that. It brings a total savings of about $40 USD. Link to do that is below this video. Okay, let's dive in. The all signs will be published roughly within the next 5 to 7 days after this goes up. Okay. So, what's interesting about this Leo new moon is that there's something about it that is, how do we put, it's very straightforward in that it doesn't have a ton of astrological aspects. However, this Leo new moon has some things about it that are unsettled and potentially confusing, especially as we get into the Mercury retrograde energy, which starts the day after this new moon on August 5th, goes through the 28th. We are already in the shadow period for that Mercury retrograde energy. So I'm going to give you a thorough breakdown of what the kickoff to the Mercury retrograde energy is going to be like, and prominent dates during the retrograde to look out for in this video, so you understand how the connection between this Leo new moon and the Mercury retrograde extend themselves to color our lives over the retrograde period. One of the most empowering things to understand about a retrograde period is that it's an opportunity to review, reflect, recalibrate, and in some cases, revisit and redo things that needed a second pass by us. So during this period, you will find that there are opportunities for things that you dealt with in the last 2.5 to 3 weeks to show up again after this Leo new moon in some capacity for revisit, renegotiation, etc. Like I said, I'm going to walk through the details of the Mercury retrograde, but understand that this Leo new moon acts as a bit of a kickoff and anchor point for that retrograde, and the energies that we experience at this new moon will really color some of the retrograde for us. So it'll be important to understand how this new moon works to your advantage. This new moon is features high fire. There's a lot of placements in fire signs, and it is also high fixed. There's a lot of placements in fixed signs. There's a lot of fire going on. That means that our internal kind of way of processing is going to be significantly more spiritual for a lot of people. There can also be a lot of activity, but at this particular new moon, that activity is going to come from the planet Mars more than anything. The fire is what's going to allow us to burn through alchemically things that have held us back from the movement toward our new beginnings. And there's a lot of new beginning energy. The high fixed energy is what's going to cause maybe just a little bit of confusion in some cases, because there can still be, for some of you, a lot of holding on to things that do need to go by the wayside. However, in the light, this fixed energy has us respond with wanting to establish things that have continuity, consistency, and groundedness to them. So things begun at this new moon do have the potential to last for a very long time. Here is our new moon at the 12th degree of Leo. We see it in sextile with a Mars Jupiter conjunction in Gemini. We see it in opposition to Chariklo in Aquarius. And we also see a sextile to the shaman's asteroid here in Libra. Okay. There's a lot of energy of movement, momentum, and motivation to take action. And that is coming from Mars, who's amplified by Jupiter there. Mars and Jupiter expand not only action, but also the impact of action. We may feel very compelled to act, to do at this new moon, and it's meant to spur us toward acting in our highest interest. It will be important to focus and choose carefully with the two of them in Gemini to avoid biting off more than we can chew. There's a very strong impetus to explore here. Copious conversations are possible in Gemini with lots of wheeling and dealing. Enthusiasm and enthusiastic actions are very likely since Jupiter amplifies and Mars creates motion. This is a great time as well, since both of them are in Gemini, for a small getaway or a staycation. With the shaman's asteroid down here in Libra, our partnership, fairness, justice, and equity sign, with the shaman's asteroid, opportunity to take lessons we've learned and incorporate them in the plans we make now are available. Chariklo in opposition can find ourselves at extremes of either thinking we need to do it all ourselves or leaving it all up to the divine with no participation from us. We're going to have to find the balance, as this new moon is both blessed and action inspiring. So it's indicative of blessed action once taken, but we have to also remember to ask for the help from ancestors, the angelic realm, God, the Holy Spirit, Allah. Wherever your faith sits, it is your opportunity, once you have gotten some clarity about the action you need to take, to reach out to the spiritual realm to get that support that you need to really aid your action in leading you in directions that are correct for you. There are other aspects at this particular new moon. As I said, there is the beginning of a Mercury retrograde. So here's where I'm going to give you the Mercury retrograde preview. Mercury sits at that 4th degree of Virgo. The retrograde dates again are August 5th through 28th, and the kickoff energy includes this conjunction to Venus here in Leo. So all of this is Venus energy at this lunation as well. And if you're listening to the Mercury retrograde exclusive, have a listen to the full Lightworker energy update if you want to understand the Venusian aspects to this particular new moon. We have a square to that Mars in Gemini as well. We have a trine to Ceres and Pholus, who are conjunct in Capricorn here. I've been talking about them all year, and I'll speak more to them in a moment. A sextile to the shaman's asteroid here, or a semi-sextile to the shaman's asteroid here in Libra. We have a square to Uranus here in Taurus, and we have a sextile to the creation goddess in Scorpio. That's not the creation goddess, that's Pallas. Here's the creation goddess in Scorpio. So the start of this Mercury retrograde are going to color the themes for the entirety of it. So too will the shadow period energies. What there is to consider is what came up in the area of your chart that governs Gemini and Virgo, the signs that Mercury governs. How you can also take a look at the houses that Virgo and Leo govern, because these are the signs that will host the Mercury retrograde itself. These houses in your natal chart are where you're going to have the most activity during the Mercury retrograde. Okay. And if you need some help understanding that, you can always book one of the 30-minute readings below or the 1 hour readings with a 20% off savings code that will allow you to have a look at how's this Mercury retrograde going to impact you, as well as the upcoming eclipse season. So let's take these aspects one by one and localize their themes. Mercury retrograde conjunct Venus in and of itself. Mercury's consciousness and communication. We have this lends itself to themes about attraction, beauty, and money and values over the course of the Mercury retrograde. If there were issues of this nature that you saw arise around and after July 16th, which is when the shadow period began, these issues are going to be a focal point as we move into the retrograde. Mercury will meet up with Venus once over the course of this retrograde period, in which themes pertaining to what we value and what we're drawn to will come up very strongly. These will also be themes in which we may be able to communicate more times where we may be able to communicate more lovingly and kindly about the changes we're making to our lives to assist the people connected to the old self or the old section of our lives, so that they can become more sovereign themselves as we step into changes that allow us greater sovereignty, specifically because Mercury is moving from the sign of discernment and decision making back into the sign of sovereignty and creative authority, only to move back into decision making and discernment a final time. And so this means that because we've got this activation specifically with Venus, we'll get some notification. What are you drawn to? And what decisions do you need to make about it? Clarity really shows itself during this Mercury retrograde. Mercury will also square Mars as part of the kickoff energy. And this means that the retrograde may have some Martian elements, as Mars is square to Venus and Mercury conjunct. Mars square to Venus brings a lot of passion and tension, the tension of desire without immediate gratification. And this can intensify the chemistry and passion around desiring something. This can also cause us to be pushy in what we might call sealing the deal. Mercury square Mars can have us saying things that we might regret or acting in ways that we can't undo. So for some, this will be helpful in helping you finally get things off your chest that needed saying for some time. For others, this is going to take the foot that is often in your mouth and shove it down your throat. Know which camp you fall into so you can prepare accordingly. Getting things done is also going to be a major theme, as we're all feeling compelled to move forward because of the other aspects here. Read the fine print. I just want to give this caveat on any contracts or agreements twice if they have to be signed during this period. If you can delay, that will be perfect, as there are negotiable terms that could be revisited after signing once Mercury goes direct. There is some indication that the nervous system can feel overstimulated in this energy as well. So there could be some like hastiness or jumpiness or kind of pushiness with this. So when you can, make sure to do what helps you in terms of settling your nerves so you can focus and make the choices that come from an aligned place rather than choices from a place that come from exasperation and frustration. Okay. Now, This Mercury retrograde will also be trine Pholus and Ceres over here in Capricorn. And this is an influence that covers the entirety of the year and is one of the most unique and special influences of 2024. Because they are retrograde square, the transiting nodal axis, they're causing all of us to arrive at choice points that open opportunities down one timeline or another timeline that are not available on both timelines. So I described it to a client recently like this. You come to a fork in the road. On that fork in the road, they go in completely different directions. In the direction on the left, if you take that, you have certain options and opportunities from taking that direction. But if you take the direction on the right, there are other options and opportunities. The options that are available on the left are not the options that are available on the right. Retrograde squares force us into decisions at the fork in the road, and they open up and close timelines based on the available choices in one direction or another. This is a pretty straightforward one, though. Folis specifically talks about toxicity. And Ceres specifically talks about closures to cycles and completions together in the sign of Capricorn that deals with the structure of our lives and also businesses, which hosts Pluto closing out a cycle and a season. Anything that has been causing you poison or toxicity is meant to close at this time. The obvious choice is the one that allows you to step into greater selfhood. That's the North Node here in Aries, greater understanding of who you are, because this Mercury retrograde speaks to the two of these, especially at the kickoff point. There is a sense of closure and finality to patterns, processes, paradigms, and in some cases, relationships that have proven themselves to be toxic, in particular to your mental health. Again, the definition I use of toxic is continued participation in a thing when we know it undermines our well being and sabotages our desired outcomes. There is a closure to those issues available with this new moon. It may take several conversations since Mercury's going to retrograde. It may take a revisitation of the terms of closure with additional revelations toward the end of the Mercury retrograde or when Mercury goes direct on the 28th of the month. Okay. We do also have Mercury retrograde semi-sextile, the shaman's asteroid here, which is allowing some latent revelation to show up when it comes to the lessons that we have been working really hard to learn. It looks like there's an inkling of revelation about lessons we've been attempting to learn that shows itself at the start of the retrograde, that gets cemented at the end of the retrograde when Mercury comes back to this fourth degree and closes out the shadow period and lands in the semi-sextile again. It's going to feel in many ways intuitive, the decisions that you have to make, specifically in the realm of relationships, to integrate the lessons that you've spent a lot of time learning. There are many things here that do need to be put down, put to bed, put to closure. And as such, and because of that, the conversations that you're having over the course of the Mercury retrograde with people that require that closure to paradigm, pattern, process, or relationship, those conversations are going to show you, okay, yeah, my intuition, my hunch was right. It is time to create some closure here. Okay. This Mercury retrograde is going to square as well Uranus in Taurus. And I would say this is probably the most influential energy of the entire Mercury retrograde because it's going to touch Taurus 3 different times, whereas the other energies, there's only one contact. It's going to touch Uranus and Taurus 3 times. The Uranian influence is going to be dominating because it is also the planetary energy that is furthest from this Mercury. And so it enhances and intensifies the capacity to speak without thinking, react from a place of wounded ego, pride, impulsivity, and rash or hasty responses and decisions. This can create some challenges when it comes to navigating to outcomes that we want initially. What this does, though, again, I mentioned this in the full new moon update. If you're listening to the exclusive about this Mercury retrograde, what this does is it facilitates a level of like a popping out for those of you who have been stuck for a long time in a situation that has to change and you've been biting your tongue and biding your time. This is when you may explode. That explosion is actually going to help shake you out of the situation and shake you loose. May require a little cleanup on the other side, some damage control, but it will ultimately be what sets you free. Okay. For those of you, again, that normally have your foot in your mouth, you normally explode. You normally are, telling everybody where to go and what to do. This is a period of time in which you really want to watch it because the tendency to, act first and ask questions later will be at a high. And unfortunately, there will be things because of the high fixed energy of this Mercury retrograde season at its kickoff, there will be things that you're not going to be able to take back, words that can't be unheard, actions that can't be overlooked. So just be mindful. Know which camp you fall into. Okay. Additionally, throughout this period, we can receive or be the bearer of shocking, surprising news or feel like the speed at which life is coming at us is very overwhelming. Again, be very thoughtful about things agreed upon, plans made, contracts signed, as they may need to be redone, rescheduled, reexamined, recommunicated, replanned as we move through the fullness of Mercury retrograde and its shadow period. Okay, we have a sextile from Mercury to the creation goddess here at the beginning of Scorpio, tail end of Libra. This too will have 3 meetups and echo some of the closure or beginning of the end themes as she sits at the sign of alchemical transformation and completions, and that's Scorpio. This can include a lot of communication surrounding closures or change to a situation that needs to transform in some way in order to enhance your sovereignty and creative authority in an area of life. Again, look to the area of life that Virgo, Leo, and Gemini govern in order to get a better understanding of what this means for you. Okay. Now, this could be related to a direct report, a project, a housing situation, a relationship. There's no way for me to know for sure without having a look at your chart, but chances are you have some awareness about what this is already, as it may have been a long time coming. As creation goddess has been at the tail end of Libra, retrograding back and forth into Scorpio for the majority of this year so far. Mercury will sextile her exactly on July 26th, August 13th, and September 9th. However, the whole period will be colored with these themes without creating change to about creating change to one state of existence so that another state in which you're more sovereign can have with greater access to your creative potential can thrive. Okay. I think I talked about Mars. No, I did talk about the Martian aspect. Okay, good. Um, Mars, let's talk about the Okay, perfect. And that's our Mercury retrograde aspects. Okay, that's all of them. I love it. So if you need any help figuring out how to navigate through this Mercury retrograde, things come up, you already know certain things are about to be an issue, you can book a reading with me below at kmoonastro.com. There is also a 20% off code for a 1 hour reading, and there are 30-minute readings if you just want to talk about Mercury retrograde and the upcoming eclipse themes, as we are already in eclipse season, and the path you're meant to be taking based on your chart. We can see that all through the blueprint of your incarnation, your natal chart in a reading. Okay. Really looking forward to speaking with you. Let's talk about the other themes going on at this Leo new moon. We do see Mars featured in conversation with the new moon, Mars itself here. And this gives this particular new moon period an extraordinary amount, as I mentioned, motivation, drive, and impetus to move things in our lives toward a new direction, given its conversation with the new moon, Mars's movement. Jupiter expands whatever he touches, and Jupiter is conjunct that Mars. The new in this case is configurations that allow us greater sovereignty. That's Leo, where the new moon sits, and creative authority in our lives. Through necessary conversations, that's the Gemini part, with the constellation of people in our lives. That's also Gemini. Big talk and a lot of courage are themes here. So just be sure you actually mean what you say when you say it. I would keep promises and commitments conservative until you know more as we move through the the Mercury retrograde period. Okay. We have Mars and Jupiter conjunct in Gemini here at that 9th and 15th degree. And this opens up a feeling of potentially being torn as Mars and Jupiter want to expand and move forward. They are squaring Saturn and Pisces in Nessus. And Saturn with Nessus wants to dot every I and cross every T. This tension between perfectionism and breaking free could be a personal and inside tension that has a lot of worry and concern for other people's feelings and thoughts. And likewise, a lot of worry and concern about what ifs that may never happen. Gemini can really cover the gamut when exploring, but in order to get the benefit of this, it's going to be necessary to think through best case scenarios, not worst case scenarios. Okay. In the best case scenarios is where we will find our solutions if we focus our attention there. Okay. This is a call to narrow focus and really look at what needs to be set aside for the benefit of your sovereignty. And it will also help you understand that letting other people down at this time can also empower them to find solutions that are a better match. There are some instances as well where it may feel like no matter how hard you try, you cannot get anything done. The major lesson here is not only patience, but also creativity. Perhaps there is a less direct method that will still achieve the same results. Both Mars and Jupiter in curious and exploratory Gemini, and then Saturn in all that is Pisces. Between the two of them, there is an opportunity to consider ways of accomplishing the end goal that may be roundabout, but still accomplishes the results you're looking for. Okay. Now, we also have that Mars Jupiter conjunction trine Chariklo over here in Aquarius. And this is really going to be a blessing. Where there is curiosity, there is progress. Any attempts to try out something in a new way, to try anything, say something, even if it's the wrong thing, does seem to have a bit of mixed blessing here, given the other elements. There are angels and ancestors looking out for us here, cheering us on to our new beginning, opening doors, but it's our action in at least trying to get unstuck, even if the effort is imperfect and needs to be restarted a few times. It's our action that will really help us get to where we want to go. Both of these, talking to the new moon, Chariklo, as well as Mars Jupiter, will help us move forward with a bit of help from friends and on the other side and the divine. We do see that Mars Jupiter conjunct the shamans, or sorry, not conjunct, but those two are conjunct, but they are also speaking to the shaman's asteroid there in Libra. This opens up a grand air trine here. Okay, which can make this a very mental, thoughtful, and communicative new moon period. There's an element of the spiritual and transcendent here as well. There may be a sense that there's something bigger than you at play, a place that you need to get to by making the changes you're making right now, and a sense that the changes being made through them, there's greater good that's getting served even if it doesn't look like it. There can also be a sense of momentum that carries your actions and amplifies them. Again, it's really critical to act from a place of clarity about what you want. Conversations and communication can be had, and many will be had over the course of Mercury retrograde. And as I've mentioned several times, once things are said, they can't be unheard. So just be thoughtful about it and consider best case scenarios. We have at this particular new moon Juno as well, speaking to Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Now, this is a big deal because Juno represents our partnerships, marriages. She represents um, our capacity to commit to collaboration. Venus draws us into it. Her higher octave, Juno, is what allows it to stabilize. Okay. If you're wondering, that is a tidbit from Pandora Astrology. I really like Jamie over there. If you are a lover of Juno, and you're interested in Juno's work for all of us, you can take some study time with Jamie over at Pandora Astrology. She's wonderful. She's been on the path of validating Juno and her movement in our partnerships for a long time. So, this combo is life changing, and it features at this Leo new moon some changes to our relationship structures. Okay. So overall, this speaks to a total restructuring of our partnerships and alliances professionally, personally, and romantically. There is a sense that long term partnerships can be tested at this time, with Juno speaking to all three of the major change makers simultaneously, where she's changing alliances, changing partners, changing her perspective on alliances and partnerships. It's a function of a lengthy retrograde process that had these things under review between January and April, where she was retrograde. Now that she's fully out of the retrograde shadow period and the sign that deals with discernment and decision making, that's Virgo, there is a sense of, I know what I need to do now and how I need to change things when it comes to where I am committed at this time. We've all been shifting across life's game board while we've been transforming, but this is a specialized period, this Leo new moon, where on top of us transforming, the way we connect with people and some of the people we connect with will also change as well. Okay, so that's what I got for this Leo new moon. If you need any support figuring out where this is headed for you personally, please book with me below at kmoonastro.com. We are going to have a look at the next lunation now. I'm going to give you my first impression of the full moon in, I believe it's going to be Virgo. Wow, this year's flying. We're going to have a look at the full moon in Virgo coming up now. I stand corrected. It is the Aquarius full moon on August 19th at 2:25 p.m. If you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States, please check a time zone converter for your local time. This is my first look at this and gives us an opportunity to see where the energies go from here. So our new moon is here at the 27th, sorry, full moon is here at the 27th degree of Aquarius. Interesting. Okay. And we have direct and exact square to Uranus. Uranus has been heavily featured, and it is the divine change maker. He's been heavily featured at a lot of lunations this year. Uranus wants to quantum leap, skip us forward several steps. And we have an opposition with Mercury, who is retrograde, and Vesta. Interesting. So lots of changes. T square there. Yeah, lots of changes to commitments. We've got a square to Pallas. This brings in a grand cross and fixed signs. Ooh, yes, high mutability, high fixed energy. We're going to have to be flexible here. And let's just see, we've got a trine to the creation goddess. So we're also going to have to be creative here as well. We do see semi-sextile nearly to Pluto, and this brings a sense of latent power to the situation. It's going to be really important that we avoid manipulation and trying to control other people and the way that they see us or see our changes. But this is definitely meant to shift us big time. This looks like it is a like lots of conversations. They do look like they have a bit of tension and stress to them. One of the keys to the Aquarius full moon as we get into late August is recognizing we cannot please everybody. You're going to be making some changes, and I've mentioned this several times as we get into August that aren't going to always make everyone you're connected to happy. However, making those changes, it's what's going to be required for creation of fulfillment and the establishment of your new. Okay, guys, that's what I got. I know it's a heavy change period. Hang in there. And if you know you need some support from the blueprint of your own life, you do know where to find me. Okay. I love you guys. Take great care and bye for now.